Hey guys, in this video we would understand how to add and subtract vectors when they are given on the same axes. Let's understand this with an example. Let's say we're given a vector A with magnitude 3 centimeters and direction east, and we're given vector B with magnitude 2 centimeters, direction east as well. How do we draw these vectors? So vector A would look something like this because we are drawing this in east direction and this magnitude assumed to be 3 centimeters. Vector B would look like this, smaller than 3 centimeters but in the same direction east. Now whenever we have to add vectors and the question asks us to add A vector with B vector. So remember, whenever we have to add vectors, the first vector given is the first vector that will be drawn. So we will draw vector A again. The second vector that is supposed to be added to the first vector is going to be joined with its tail to the head of the previous vector. So this is vector B. And this total, starting from the initial point to the final point, is called vector A plus B. Now since we're able to see that the vector magnitude has increased, so vector A is 3 centimeter plus vector B is 2 centimeter, and the total of A and B will be 5 centimeters. Direction is from the initial point to the final point, and the direction is going towards east. Let's take up another example. If we're given the same vectors A, 3 centimeter east, and vector B, that is 2 centimeters east. Now the question asks us to find B plus A vector. So we would draw vector B first. This is vector B. Head of vector B will be joined to the tail of vector A. So this is vector A, and this is the sum again, starting from the initial point to the final point, and that will be 2 plus 3, which is equal to 5 centimeter. Direction from initial to final is still east. So remember, the first vector given is the first vector drawn, and the second vector that is added to the first vector will be joined in a way that the tail of the second vector joins the head of the first vector. Let's take another example where the two vectors are now not in the same direction but in the opposite direction. So this is 3 centimeters east, and vector B is 2 centimeters west. They are still on the same axes. East and west is the x-axis. However, they are in the opposite direction. So how would A look like? This is how vector A is going to look like, and vector B looks like this. Rule is the same. If we have to do vector A plus vector B, we draw vector A first. So this is vector A, tail to head. Now vector B's tail is going to join the vector A's head and will make this vector over this A vector. So this is our initial point. This is the final stop where we have reached. This is our resultant vector, and that is going to be A plus B. Remember, your resultant vector is always from the initial start point to the point where you have stopped after working on both the vectors. And the direction always goes from the initial point to the stop point. So in this case, we would have A plus B. A is given to us as 3 centimeters east plus B is given to us as 2 centimeters west. Another thing that we have to remember is always north is positive, similarly east is positive, south is negative, west is negative. So if I want to get rid of, or if I don't want to show these directions, all I can do is just put their sign. So this is plus 3 plus this is minus 2, which gives me a 3 minus 2 is 1 centimeters. Direction is east, and we can easily see that we are going from the start point to the stop point in east direction. Let's take another example, and now in north and south direction. So if we are given vector A is 3 centimeters north and vector B is given to us as 2 centimeters north as well, all we have to do is just make vector A, make vector B, and when we are adding these two vectors, we'll just make it this way. So vector A drawn first and vector B drawn in this way such that vector B's tail is joined to vector A's head, and this would give us A plus B vector. That would be 5 centimeters north from the initial point to the stop point. If we have to find out what is B plus A, we'll make B first and then join the tail of A to the head of B, and this would give us B plus A. That will be equal to 5 centimeters north as well. Let's do vector subtraction now. So if we have to subtract two vectors that are given in the same direction, let's say we have vector A given to us as 3 centimeters east and vector B is given to us as 2 centimeters east, and we have to find out vector A minus B. How do we draw vector A? This is my vector A. How do I draw vector B? This is vector B. Now I have to subtract A and B. So technically this means that I have to add to my vector A negative of vector B. So if my A is 3 centimeters east, that means it's a plus 3. B is 2 centimeters east, that means it's a plus 2. I have to find out what is a negative B. Negative B will be the same magnitude but with a negative direction. So this is my B vector in the negative direction. Now I'm going to add vector A with my negative vector. So adding a negative vector to the first vector also means subtracting the second vector from the first vector. So A plus minus B would be drawn as vector A, and then minus B is this one, so this is the tail will join the head and it's gonna go this way. This is vector B, this is the initial point, this is the stop point, and this is what is A minus B. So how do we write it down? As vector A added to the negative counterpart of vector B. Vector A is 3, negative counterpart of vector B is a minus 2, and this gives us a 1 centimeter direction is east, because we are going from the start point to the stop point, and this direction is east. Let's take another example for vector subtraction. Let's say we have vector A 3 centimeters east, vector B again 2 centimeters east, and now we're supposed to find out B minus A vector, which also means adding to B vector negative of A. Let's draw vector A and B in the original forms first. So vector A looks like this, vector B looks like this, because we have to add to B the negative of A. So let's draw negative of A. Let's make it with a different color. So this is negative of A. Now we are adding to B, so we'll make B first, is the negative of A. So the tail of A starts at the head of B, keep going, cross B, because the A vector is longer than B vector. Start point of B was here, so our final magnitude will be start point to stop point, and that's gonna be this one. How do we find out our final result? We do B plus negative of A. Vector B is a plus 2. A negative is going to be a negative 3, which is going to be a negative 1 centimeters, or negative means west, and we can clearly see that our start point to stop point is going in west direction. So we can write it as 1 centimeters west. And this is how we perform vector addition and subtraction when the vectors are given on the same axes.